Hi everyone, it's Gina K from Gina K Designs and your host of Stamp TV. And today on Stamp TV, I'm so excited to introduce the brand new Stamp-n-Stencil Fall and Holiday Collections by Gina K Designs and ThermOWeb. These collections are filled with beautiful fall and holiday images that can be two-step stamped or combined with the coordinating stencils and dies to add texture, sparkle, and shine. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on the Autumn Wishes collection, and in tomorrow's video, I'll be featuring the Wishing You Joy collection. Let me show you both new collections now. This is the Autumn Wishes collection, and the Autumn Wishes stamp set is a large 6x8 stamp set, and it's got these two really fun trees and then leaves that you can stamp or stencil on top. It's also got a collection of single leaves with veins that you can stamp into them. It also has a flower and big, bold autumn greetings. The stencil has this beautiful flourish pattern that allows you to do ink blending or texture paste, decofoil transfer gel, and glitz. And then you can see that you can lay the leaf parts over these trees and ink blend them or use different textures to add sparkle and shine. You also have all of the veins for the leaves, and then you also have a coordinating die set, and it's easy to cut these dies out. You can see right through them, and they fit perfectly over the images to make cutting quick and easy. The Wishing You Joy collection is another beautiful collection. It's got a 6x8 stamp set that has this large ornament and a little cap for the ornament so you can hang it. It also has a poinsettia, holly leaf. It's got a branch that has berries on it, and it also has some big, bold, beautiful holiday greetings. The stencil works beautifully with the ornament in 3 different ways. You can either use those swirled stripes or these dots, or you can do this little diamond pattern across the center, and that gives you 3 different looks for your ornaments. It also has veins for the holly leaf. It's got veins for the poinsettia flower, and then a little grouping for the center of that flower. It also has some berries that you can go on top of the stamped berries to add texture and shine. And it's got this large, beautiful snowflake background, perfect for ink blending, glitz, and texture paste. It has a full set of dies, and you can see you can cut out the ornament and then stamp the little cap on top. And all of the images in this collection have a die that coordinates with them. And there is something else I want to show you. We have 2 brand new limited edition Glitz Glitter Gel colors. The first one is called Holiday Pine, and it is a true Christmas green. When you mix this color with the red velvet on a project, you have the perfect traditional red and green for Christmas projects. And then we have a new color called Pumpkin Spice. This is a deep, dark, orangey color, and it's perfect for the veins on the leaves and also those leaves on the trees and the stencil for the Autumn Wishes collection and any of your autumn projects. Now for my card today, I'm going to do a technique called Inlay Die-Cutting. I'm going to start by stamping the trunks of the trees. There are 2 trees in this collection, and I'm going to stamp 3 trees all together. So the wider tree, I'm going to stamp 2 of those, and then I'm going to stamp 1 of the skinny trees. Now when you stamp these on your cardstock, make sure you don't forget to leave a little bit of room on the side because you still have to add all of those leaves. Now here's the skinny tree, and again I'm stamping this with dark chocolate ink to create the trunk. I'm spacing these out to make sure I have plenty of room for the leaves and for die cutting. Now before I add the leaves, I want to do the die cutting first. It's much easier to die cut these trees first and then add the leaves after than adding the leaves first. I'm going to use a little bit of purple tape to hold down my die in place, and I'm going to use that at the top of the tree and also at the bottom of the tree. By die cutting first, you're going to be able to know exactly where to place the leaves, and there's no chance that you'll be placing the leaves too high or too much to the left or the right. They're going to fit right into that area that's left behind. So I'm using my Spellbinders die cutting machine, and I've cut that die out, that tree out, and I'm just going to pop it out of the die, and you can see what's left behind. So now it's ready for leaves. I'm going to cut out the other two trees the same way. This is the tall tree, the tall skinny tree, and you can see what that looks like. And then finally I'm going to cut out that last tree, and now I have all three trees. Now I'm going to take a little bit of the Gina K Designs and ThermOWeb Adhesive Dot Runner just to lightly tack down the tree onto a piece of cardstock. I'm going to do this because I don't want the trees to move around when I add the leaves. And I am going to be using some pixie spray, so it is going to be holding on to that paper a little bit, so I want to make sure that I can pull it up easily. So I've put pixie spray on the back of this stencil. And now I'm going to place the stencil on top of the tree exactly where those leaves should be. And it's very easy to see this. This is not hard to do. Now there are a couple little holes here that could get in the way, so I'm going to just tape over that with some purple tape so that if my glitz expands down onto that area, it won't go through onto the trunk. My first color I'm going to use is the new limited edition Pumpkin Spice Glitz. And I'm just spreading a little bit of that over the leaves. And you can see as I'm spreading it, I'm kind of cleaning it up a little bit, and then I'm going back over any areas that need more. And I'm saving all of that excess, so you can see you're really only using a little bit of glitz for this. Now I'm going to clean my palette knife with a baby wipe, and I also recommend cleaning around the edge of the glitz to make sure there isn't any there so that you can put the lid on and close it nice and tight, and you don't have to worry about it drying up or drying stuck. Now I'm going to pull off that purple tape, and I'm going to gently grab the corner and lift it straight up off of the tree. And you can see those beautiful pumpkin spice leaves left behind. I'm going to clean my stencil with a baby wipe because I'm going to use that same part of the stencil again. And now I'm going to tack it down on top of the tree below. This time I'm going to use some of the Wild Lilac Glitz. And I think purple is a great color for autumn. All kinds of plums and purples are beautiful autumn complementary colors to those oranges and browns. So again, I'm just spreading this glitz. It almost spreads like a peanut butter, very, very smooth, very, very silky. And then I'm just going to wipe off the excess with the side of the palette knife and put it back into my glitz jar. Now I'm going to do one more here, but this one I'm going to do a little bit differently. So once I have my stencil in place, I'm going to tape up those veins on the leaf below the tree there. But I'm not going to do that until after I do a little ink blending. So this color is called Honey Mustard, and I'm going to blend this color over the leaves on the stencil. And you can do this with any color that you want. If you don't have a glitz color that works for what you want to do, just use ink and blend the ink over first. Then, once you do that, you can add the white glitz, and that's going to give you a beautiful look. So I'm going to add some white glitz. You can see I taped up the veins underneath there. This white glitz is very translucent, so it allows the color to show through, but it just kind of changes the color and makes it a little bit lighter. Now, I wouldn't overuse the glitz here because once it starts to mix with the ink, you're not going to be able to put it back in the jar. I do have a little more than I probably needed, but if I had another tree ready to go, I could use it for that. Right now I'm just going to wipe it off because I don't need it for anything, but you can certainly do more than one design at a time and use the excess for the second design. Now I'm going to pull up on that corner of the stencil and reveal the beautiful honey mustard leaves underneath that are all shiny because I used the white Glitz Glitter Gel. So for my next step, I am going to create a window on this craft cardstock panel. This panel is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and I'm going to start by putting the tall skinny tree in the center of the cardstock. Now it doesn't have to be absolutely centered, you don't need to measure it out, just so that it looks like it's in the center. And I'm going to cut that one out first. Now the piece that's left behind on this tree, I can use for another project, so I'll keep that piece. But the other 2 cuts I'm going to make will not be able to be used for another project. I'm going to lay the larger tree die on top of my cardstock, and it's going to overlap a little bit onto the cutout space next to it. And again, I'm just making sure that that's nice and straight, and then I'm going to cut that out. This is going to begin this large window where I can lay my die cut pieces inside and sink them down into the front of my card. So I'm just taking this tree out, and you can see this one's not quite so usable. And then the last one, I'm going to do the same way. I'm going to place that tree and overlap it into the middle one again. And I'm trying to keep an even distance on the right side as I did when I placed the one on the left side. Once that's in place, I'll replace my plate onto that panel and I will cut that last one out. And once that's all cut out, I have an opening to drop all 3 trees inside and down onto cardstock that will be sitting below this panel. Now I really like the way this craft looks, but I felt like it needed a little texture. You can do that by stenciling over it with a soft beigey color, or you can do what I'm doing here, and I'm just running it through the machine one more time using a Swiss dot embossing folder. So I'm adding a little texture that way, but you certainly could stencil over it as well. And you can see once I pull this out, all of that nice texture that I have there. So now I am ready for my next step, and the next step is going to be to adhere this panel onto my white note card. I'm doing that by using some of the Gina K designs and ThermOWeb foam squares. I'm using the black ones here, but you can use the white ones. Either one will work and they don't show through. So you can see I'm strategically placing those all around this panel, but I am leaving the space to the left and the right of that cutout area down by the trunks open because I want to be able to slip something under there. So you can see there's no foam squares down the sides of those trunks on the left and right side of the cutout. Now I'm going to place that right onto my card base, and then I can press down all the foam squares, making sure they're all making contact. Now my next step is going to be to make sure that I don't have anything in the way there, and I'm just slipping my palette knife in there so there's no foam squares in there. And then I'm going to start to lay my trees inside. So I'm really making sure I get a little bit of that adhesive on all of those little leaf points because I want those to hold down nice and tight. Now I'm going to slip that into the opening, And then once it's in place, I'm going to press it down so it sinks down into the design. It's not just resting on top, it's actually sinking down. And if you have any trouble, you can use something like the Tim Holtz piercing tool to kind of press them down in there and make sure that they're all the way down onto the white card base underneath. So for this one, I found that if I turn the card sideways, I have a little bit better view and it's a little easier to just drop it in there. And you can see that this tree is going to be in front of the other two trees and the leaves are going to overlap over both the left and right tree. And now you can see as I turn it side to side that all of the trees have sunk down into that opening and I have all of those beautiful glitzed trees. Now I have a piece of vellum, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to emboss a greeting onto the vellum. I'm using the Autumn Wishes greeting, and I've already used my embossing magic pad over that piece of vellum. Now I'm going to use the Gina K Designs Watermark and Embossing Ink pad. This is a great way to add embossing powder to your projects, but it is also a great ink pad for leaving just a watermark behind or for using with powders like Pearl X or Perfect Pearls. So once I stamp that down, I'm going to get my Gina K Designs Fine Detail Gold Embossing Powder. I highly recommend using a fine detail powder, especially when you have small words like the ones on this panel. Fine detail powder doesn't swell up so much, and this way you don't lose any of that detail. So now I've preheated my embossing tool a little bit by turning it on and just letting it run for a minute. And that's going to allow that embossing powder to melt very quickly. Vellum has a tendency to warp a little bit, so if you preheat your embossing gun, the powder melts quickly and you have less warping on your vellum. So my next step is to add this vellum to my card project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of measure it out. I want to make sure the autumn word goes across the trees, and then I'm just going to trim enough on either side so that I can slip it underneath the trees without it being too long. Then I'm going to add adhesive in two different places. And I'm just going to use my dot runner adhesive for this. I'm going to use some adhesive over the words. This way it won't show through on the front, so I'm just adding tiny little bits of it over the gold embossed words. And then once I have some of that, I'm going to run a little bit of adhesive down each side on the front, because the front is going to slip underneath and I want it to attach to that craft part. So now I'm going to slip it in one side and slip it in to the other side. And I'm going to just take my time and position it until it looks straight and it's even on both sides. And once that's in place and I know that it's even on both sides, I can begin to press down the letters on the front and I may have them make contact with the craft cardstock, and then I can press on either side of the tree and make sure that it makes contact with that top layer of cardstock. So that is my finished card project. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you'll give these techniques a try. The new Stamp-n-Stencil collections are now available at ThermOWeb.com, GinaKDesigns.com, and fine retailers near you. Stay tuned tomorrow for part 2 of this video series, and here are a couple other videos you might enjoy. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell on my channel so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.